Welcome to Policy on Demand. I'm Chris Gilbert. Here with me today to discuss highlights and key takeaways from PwC's Consumer Markets Tax Executive Roundtable is Eric Shin. Eric, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's nice to see you. The Consumer Markets Roundtable always has a robust agenda. We have a great group of clients that tend to attend this thing. What are some of the highlights or key takeaways from this year's conference?
I love this group of clients. We had some iconic brands attend and really engaging clients. So we really appreciated that. But just going back to like when we put this event together and the program together, it was all about what is happening in the industry. And if you think about this consumer markets industry, no other industry had to reinvent itself so many times. Think about the constantly changing customer demand. COVID had such a profound impact on the industry. So we were really focusing on, as an industry, how businesses are reinventing itself to actually be competitive. So if I can actually translate into like what is the one key focus, it's all about margins. Some companies are protecting margins while others are doing everything they can to expand the margins. So what are some of the key business initiatives around that? So we try to focus on, for this event, 4 key transformation efforts. 1, cost takeout efforts. Obviously, that is most tangible, quick measurement. We also talked about a little bit on supply chain operations transformation, which again, COVID has such a profound impact on how companies think about their supply chain, building additional resiliency. Also, deals transformation, because if you're growing capabilities or if you have parts of the business that are just drag on your margins, how to actually get rid of those businesses. And of course, all the transformation programs are enabled by some sort of technology. So we also talked about digital transformation as well. And really the key theme of the conference was, how do we as tax, how do we add value in driving some of those business decisions and those business initiatives that are being executed and implemented? What can we do to make sure that, one, we're not creating any additional risk from a tax perspective, but at the same time, is there an additional value that we can add from a tax perspective?
Yeah, and what I found actually one of the more impactful things too is we were going through those different pieces. We had some panelists that were from the business themselves, not just tax. And one of the more robust conversations we had was around how does tax get engaged in that as a fundamental purpose? And then the other piece of that is the value that they as a business see when tax gets engaged. So I thought that was a great conversation with the clients in the room.
Absolutely. Once the business folks actually see the value that tax can add, I think the term that our client used was a flywheel, and the top spin. Like how can there be additional value that can be squeezed? So again, there's a lot that tax can add to the overall value creation journey.
So with all of that being said, taking the step back maybe a little bit, what is some of the commentary that we heard from both our speakers and our clients, as we kind of went through that process or even after the conference itself?
Yeah, so we talk about it all the time. The term transformation is probably these days most overly used term. So if you notice, I use the term business model reinvention. It's interesting that transformation efforts are nothing new. It's been going on like digital transformation as an example, it's been going on for more than a decade. But what's interesting to me is still when we talk to our clients, there are varying degrees of engagement from the business engaging with tax, I should say, from company to company. So we have some clients who are at the forefront and they're actually from day one involved in some of these strategic discussions. Yep. Whereas others are kind of like, wait a minute, why am I the last one to get a phone call when some of these key things are happening? So I find that very interesting. So we heard from clients in terms of how do we actually make tax more relevant? How do we actually get a seat at the table? But at the same time, in order to do that, we got to make sure that we remain relevant in identifying some of those key opportunities. So that's one of the things that we heard. Another thing that we heard was in terms of tax function itself, we're all dealing with capacity issues and dealing with competing demands. Yep. So how do, as tax function, do we actually create that capacity so we can actually take on some of this effort that's more transformational in nature? One of the clients actually shared with the group that his tax function already embodied the GBS strategy for the tax function itself, kind of offshoring some of the resources. I know a lot of clients were very interested in hearing that. And there's one particular client who actually said there's a separate legal entity finance function that takes care of all the legal entity reporting needs, wouldn't you love to have something like that for your tax function?
Yeah, no, that's right. And the point you're making here too is when we talk about transformation or reinvention, which is what you and I like to use here, it's not just the business going through that and how tax plays a role in that. It's tax reinvention in the department itself, right? Because that reinvention of the business overall is going to help dictate how the department as a whole, the tax department as a whole, is going to operate on a go-forward basis. So I thought those were very interesting and very good discussions because the point you made is right. Each of our clients are on a different spot in that spectrum or life cycle of where they sit in the department itself, but also with the business. So as we kind of think about that, what are some of the things that we would say or we might suggest to our clients with respect to actions they should be taking as they think about this on a go-forward basis?
I'm going to sound like a broken record, and I know you and I say this all the time to our clients and also to our folks as well, but make sure tax is relevant and make sure that we are involved in some of these strategic discussions from day one. Yeah. It absolutely starts with day one because a lot of the decisions that we make and whether you mitigate the risk or create that additional opportunity for tax, it really starts with some of the key decision making, including some of the funding decisions, right? Where to fund, who to fund. Yeah. That starts with day one. So I'm going to be talking about that forever, in terms of
relevancy. Absolutely.
It's just relevancy. Absolutely.
And what we heard even from the business side of the relevancy is key. And even if it's just getting a single on the first one, like the business understanding that you're relevant and why, that long-term turns into something that is a longer-term play, right? So that's just definitely something we should.
It's like almost building your own credibility with your business one by one, hitting singles at a time, and then there will come a time where you'll hit a grand slam.
Absolutely. So Eric, thank you very much. I appreciate the time today. And as always, thank you for spending time with us. We'll see you next time.